to help us do what we do. All right, so today's presenter is Sean Killian, and he's with Abernathy Solar. So you've probably heard of Abernathy Roofing, but this is a brand new division, and so we're going to talk about solar energy today. So,
Cool.
all right. Well, first of all, why don't you tell us about yourself and that kind of thing first.
Thanks, Will. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I've been in the energy business model in different capacities for the last 15 years. So I've sold products all over the nation. In Alaska, I've been involved in residential, commercial, industrial, and so I've seen, you know, good ideas come and go. I've seen things that worked and things that didn't work, and I've seen industries that started out good and struggled and then failed. And so, you know, that's kind of what we're here to talk about today, I think, is just a Q&A basically about solar, and let you guys ask some questions. And the things that are facing the industry today are not whether or not, you know, I guess you might say it's whether or not solar is really a good deal or not. So one of the common threads that I can see that's occurred through all my different travels is that it's just misinformation that happens. And the reason why that is because when an industry first starts, everyone can see that it's going to be good, right? And so they jump in, they start making product, companies tell their salespeople how great it is, and they can't back it up. So that's one thing that is a barrier that we still have to overcome today. So like in the case of LED lights, when they first came out, everybody, you know, those were supposed to be great, and the jury was still out for a long time on whether or not they would be good. Well, each industry goes through its own growing pains. And in the beginning, when LED lights came out, there's still a lot of heat associated with them. So right after you can buy them, they go out quickly, so they didn't last long. So you're paying this big price for them, and they go out. So as an industry in itself begins to mature, it comes up with better testing that puts everybody on a level playing field, so that you can, as a customer or consumer, can see the differences in quality, and you can make that decision for yourself on what's the best, if you should go ahead and make this investment or not. So now as we look at it today, you've got LED lights that last 20 years or 100,000 hours, basically, as opposed to a fluorescent bulb that's maybe 10,000 hours. So in the beginning, when solar came along, they had these blue panels, and the problem with those blue panels is that after you put them on, they would degrade so quickly that they would no longer produce what the salesman said that they would produce. And then you're left 4 or 5 years later down the road with a system that's not really giving you a payback that you were promised. And so now, as we see it, you see these nice black panels up there that actually look aesthetically more pleasing, but they only degrade about 0.25% per year. So in the next 30 years, you're looking at maybe 5% or less degradation. So it's going to keep that performance is guaranteed. So that's the reason why we still have these things that are floating around here. You've got the remnants of the misinformation of the people, the first buyers of solar or LED lighting that we're unhappy with, and they're telling everybody else out there. We all know how bad news travels, right? So, they'll tell 10 people, but the question of whether or not solar is good for you is one of the things that we still want to talk about today, and of course there's all kinds of people out there that do it.
Well, let's kind of back up a little bit and talk about the company. So Abernathy Roofing is like 21 years old. They've been there for a long time.
Right.
They're in Joplin, Nixa, and Mount Vernon. But how long have you guys, when did you start the solar division? And then is that out of the Joplin office or that kind of thing?
So good question, thanks.
Residential, commercial, what do you guys?
Yeah, we're doing residential and commercial, both. And we sell in 4 states here.
Okay.
John and Sarah, they had a vision, so what they were seeing, they're in the top 1% of roofing contractors nationwide. And they do a really, really good job, and everything they do is always met with a lot of integrity. So they were seeing among these other large roofing influencers across the nation that solar was trending among solar roofing companies. And traditionally, those two companies have been at odds with each other. There's a conflict there because, naturally the panels go on the roof. And if if those panels need to come off for any reason because the roof needs repairs, then who's gonna do that work? And how would that otherwise affect the warranty? Who's gonna cover the warranty? Well, the solar people said, well, if you come up there and remove my solar panels, that voids the warranty. And the roofing people say, well, if you come put panels on the roof, well, it's gonna void the roofing warranty. Well, now in one buying experience, there's no longer that question. So that's a big, big benefit. And you no longer have to just go to two different places to get that. You can do that all in one. But there were some shenanigans in the past, right? So what had been happening, a lot of these national solar companies will come through and they don't really care whether or not if it's a good deal for you or not. You'd be sitting in the middle of the forest and say, yeah, you need solar panels. but the problem is that, or if you've got a bad roof, they just go ahead and slap some panels on there, and in 5 years you need to take it back off. Well, solar companies are making so much money by doing, putting on panels that they don't really want to take away from that and come back to take your panels off. So they want to charge like $12,000 or $13,000 for you to take those off and put them back on during a roof repair. Well, that's not really necessary. It doesn't take that much to get them off there and put them back on. But when you're putting a new roof on, that's the best time to get solar, because then you're pretty much guaranteed you're not going to have any maintenance issues, right? So, and then we have to make sure, as your roofing expert, to make sure that you've got a lot of integrity there to support going solar. So it's a big deal for us, in keeping with the integrity of what we've been doing on the roofing side, to say to you whether or not, if you come to us with an inquiry about solar, is it going to be a good deal for you? And we will unequivocally tell you whether or not if it is or isn't.
Well, I don't know a whole lot about how solar works and all that kind of thing, so one of your slides talks about how does solar work. So can you give us the version 101 here of how it actually works and how it produces energy and that kind of thing?
So one of the reasons why solar will last you 30 years is because there's not a lot of moving parts, right? So it's what's on the technical side here, but solar panels are just made up of earth. Basically, they're rock, and that's the reason why you can drive a car over them. They'll withstand hail and whatever. So, but there's two layers within a solar panel that are made up of different particles there, and they excite, when the sun hits them, it excites those particles, and those particles are transferred into energy within the panel, and then in a DC current. Well, your house doesn't work on DC current, it works on AC current. So we have to figure out a way to convert that energy to usable energy for your home. So long story short, when the sun hits it, it creates a reaction, a process that generates electricity, and within each panel there's an inverter on there that will turn that over to AC current that's usable for your house. Now the big deal is, it was written into law, is the net metering agreements that the federal law said that if you want solar, your utility company has to provide a way for you to basically be able to get it. And that's called a net metering agreement. Now, net metering agreement means that you're going to put a meter on your house. It's a special meter that runs forwards and backwards, called bidirectional meter. And whenever your panels are on your house, the sun is out and you're creating energy, it makes that meter run backwards, creating credits. So at night, whenever you come back home, all these credits that you've used up, created by your own solar panels, before they can even charge you a penny, when you're doing your laundry or cooking dinner or whatever, it begins to run forward, because now you're using up those credits. The sun's no longer out, you're not producing energy from the solar panels. So that's how it works. It's on a credit basis. So a couple of scenarios. If you use more energy, or if you produce more energy than you're actually using, then you have more credits, and they will pay you back for what you produce extra. But the problem is that you want to size your solar system correctly, because if you size it too big, they're only paying you back wholesale rates for it, which is 2 or 3 cents a kilowatt hour. Well, if you're paying 12.5 cents retail, then, you don't wanna try to get a system that's 120% offset of your bill, right? Because the end doesn't justify the means on getting paid back only wholesale prices for electricity. You're just giving the electric company free energy, basically, and not really getting the money back for paying the extra for a bigger system. So the other one is that if you use exactly the same amount of electricity that you produced in solar, then you don't know anything. The only thing that's gonna be left is just your line charge, which is $13 with Liberty. So you'll always have a bill because you're still connected to the grid. So everything that you're producing during the day, even if you're not home, is being sent down the line, energy, to your neighbor. And they're using the energy that your solar panels are producing.
What if I don't want to be on the grid?
Well, if you don't want to be on the grid, you can certainly go with batteries, and you could go with a generator. However, the batteries are really not yet that very affordable. And so the only time I really recommend going with stored energy at this point is if you're life critical, and absolutely cannot be without power. But for the 15 minutes to 30 minutes a year that we might be out of power, to me, the end does not justify the means. They are working on technology because the batteries themselves, it takes 3 or 4 of them to really give you enough power to run your home, and usually they only last a couple hours. And then you have to recharge them. Well, right now they're lithium ion technology, which is the same thing as your phone is. We all know that after a couple of years of having your phone, you're charging it up every day. In the morning, after you charge it up all night, by noon, it goes down already. That's the nature of how that technology works. So, and that's basically the way this is too. These batteries will last you about 10 years, but the problem is it costs us about as much as the solar system does. So you're really not getting your money back out of it in 10 years, and that's the reason why I just don't really support that right now. In a couple of years, that new technology will be here, probably in a sodium type of battery.
So if I'm in town, I want to get solar, I buy the panels and all this kind of stuff, and then I'm assuming there's equipment that goes with it. So now, is this a one-time purchase? Is this a lease thing? And then how long does it last? Is it going to be redone in 10 years, or I don't know how that works?
Sure. So it's a 30-year system. It's designed to last 30 years. Of course, the first solar panels that were ever installed were in France. That was over 50 years ago. They're still working. So again, there's not a lot of working parts. The real brains of it is the inverter that converts it over to usable electricity. But they've made that now to where the inverter is on each panel, so that if you have a panel that goes bad, they just pull that panel out. In the past, it used to be one big brain that sat on the side of your house. So if that part of it went bad, then you had to replace that, which was the majority of the cost of the solar. So 30-year system, warranty's 25 years. We're working on right now at Abernathy to provide a lifetime warranty, because that's basically our warranty on our roofs is a 50-year warranty. And so you might as well say it's a lifetime. So we're in it with you for a long time, and so that there's,
Okay. So when did you guys start the solar company?
a couple months ago.
A couple months ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So, as why we're all here
Yep.
is, when you start a new company, there's challenges. So, are you the only person involved, or do you have a team, or what?
Great question. So knowing that I've been in solar for several years, so it's not like what they're jumping into it and not really knowing what they're doing. Because the way that they could jump into solar so quickly and bring a product to market was by bringing me on board. With that being said, we have project managers who will be there with you every step of the way. So we have a whole back office that's dedicated to the quality. We've got a lot of things that happen on the front end, as far as site surveys to make sure, and there's a lot of back and forth between the utility company that occurs. So we have to get engineered drawings together. Consumer never really gets to see that. And then we're back and forth with Liberty. They approve them, they get back with us, and we have permitting, and then we get the materials going, then we come out to your house. So really, you're relieved of a lot of the back and forth that's behind the scenes there on getting the rebate going, the drawings, and then the approval to install, and then there's always that interconnection process after the panels are installed that we have to coordinate with Liberty to get them back out there, because they're gonna be with us the whole way, approving. So that's another reason why you might say solar is a good thing for you, because if it wasn't, then Liberty would be giving you the money for it, you know, to give you the incentive to go that direction. Also, the federal government wants to give you 26% tax credit, which has a cash benefit. And so that's something that you work out with your CPA at the end of the year. We commonly set up these deals on an 18-month interest-only payment that allows you to basically get your rebate back, get your 26% tax credit back, and you can throw that all in on the loan, which is normally a 25-year deal at 3.99. Yeah, so at the end of the day, what we're really giving you here in the immediate gratification side of it is about maybe a $5 or $10 a month less per month than what you're currently spending with the energy company, right? So, but if the energy company were to come to you and say, okay, does it make more sense for you to own your electricity or rent your electricity? You know, if you could own your electricity for $5 more a month instead of renting it, which one would you do? Well, actually, what we're trying to do is lower your electricity bill. So $5 or $10 a month right now might not seem that attractive, right? It's not something that I would probably get out of bed for either. But over the long haul on solar, when you're talking about the exponential rise, compound rate increase over the next 30 years, right now inflation is at 8%. And traditionally, you know, we've seen rises from Liberty. You know, I don't say anything bad about Liberty. They have to go up. You know, our state is predominantly powered by coal. So if we're at 8% inflation right now, coal is going to be more than that. So in October, they've already announced that there's going to be another rate increase, and that's coming. So, what if you've got a $200 bill now, in October, that bill might be $226. So, I say all that to say this. Each year as that continues to go up, what you're doing, you're not getting much of a voice in whether or not that goes up or down. And you're renting your electricity. But with solar, you're giving yourself a voice back, getting a little bit of a win over the inflation cost instead of watching your nest egg go out the door with hamburger costs more, laundry soap costs more, gas costs more, right? So when everybody else in 20 years from now is paying $800 or $1,000, your bill will still be less. So hopefully around less than 100. That's where you really start to cash in is, you know, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, where that's really starts to stack up.
So in starting this, I mean, there's, you know, challenges in getting started and educating people and how you're gonna sell and all that kind of thing. So what are your challenges that you've had and you might have been able to address?
So if you're hearing anybody out there that says, we'll never do that again, you know, or I know somebody that had solar and they said it was terrible. They just had a horrible buying experience. There's so many, the dynamics of what that could have been earlier on in an industry are so vast that it's not fair to basically hold the whole industry accountable for a bad buying experience, which they probably are justified and have every reason to feel the way that they feel, right? But did they look at the roof? Was it sound? What kind of panels did they put on? Did they have a lot of shading that was occurring that didn't allow the system to produce? Did they charge them way too much? You know, there's so many things. Did the installers get up there and tear up things? Did they have leaks after they installed the solar? So there's so many things that could have occurred there that led to that buying experience for them being poor. So I would just say, you know, if we can, to do your best to say, you know what, I know somebody that will ensure that doesn't happen. And if it does happen, if something does go wrong, you definitely have somebody here on a local level that is prepared to make it right.
Okay, so off the sales mode, so I've been talking about like you guys actually setting up your business, what's going on. I mean, what might be some challenges you're trying to work through, as far as, because I mean, there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of solar companies out there. So I'm sure that has a challenge, you know, is there any challenges like that that, you know, the community might be able to help with, or that, offer some ideas?
Yeah, I would say, you know, as far as that goes, shopping is always a good thing. You know, and always ask, you know, where that company is from. You know, a lot of these will be national companies that are in multiple states, and a lot of what they're doing is just subcontracting it out to local people here. So how hands-on are they going to be in the process? I would think, and, you know, 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, are they going to be a company that's going to be able to service, you know, any, or answer any questions for you or be there for you? So I think that's the biggest part of it. Do your homework and submit. It only takes 12 months worth of usage, basically, to see whether or not they get that report from a solar company. They give it to you for free. So call anybody that you want to and start comparing those rates. I'll tell you right now that Abernathy is not going to be the cheapest. So, and there's reasons for that, because at the end of the day, you know, the other companies are going to be there at a lower rate. Why are they at a lower rate? Could be because they're just an enormous company, they get a much better buyout. And if they do, that's great. You know, you as a consumer, and you've got some choices to make. So I would just say, you know, when you're talking to your salesman, how comfortable do you feel with them? You know, it's summertime, and a lot of the solar companies will hire college kids, solar, you know, out of college, just to come bring you the solar report and explain to you how it works, which is fine. You know, I'm planning to do that with my son too, and daughter. You know, just ask a lot of questions, and if you don't feel like you're getting any questions, then call us, and we'll be glad to answer them for you, whether you go with us or not. It doesn't matter.
So how has we as a community helped you guys?
Tell everybody you know that it's as easy as just sending in 12 months worth of usage and let us just take a look at your property. And everybody is on a case-by-case basis, so it's not a cookie cutter thing. Solar is not. It's got to be, take a look at it, see if it's right.
All right, well, let's open up for questions. Andrew's got a question.
Heckler.
This guy.
This guy.
Thanks, Sean, for really complimenting my attributes. No, I think it would be good, and maybe this isn't the place you can decide, but to help us understand from not the consumer side, but an investor side, in some of your commercial clients, like nonprofits, in the potential for investment and the return on investment in helping. Do you know what I'm referring to? So
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think there are a few people in the room that would benefit from that.
On a residential side, I can tell you that for a return on investment, we're trying to keep that for you at around a 6 or 7 year return. Which is, it's not too bad. I think it's pretty good. Again, where you really cash out is in the later years. So, but even if you were not planning on staying in your home for very long, if you stayed in it for 5 years, you would have paid as much on the loan, and it would have added as much on the property value of your home that you would be able to consider it a wash at that point.
I was referring to the investor side, like an investor financing.
Oh, okay, so that's different, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good.
So on the nonprofit side, you know, they're not, the 26% tax credit, federal tax credit is really one of the things that helps make solar make a lot of sense. But on the nonprofit side, because they don't pay taxes, they don't take part in that, right? So there is a way, basically, that we can lease it to, and this is a question, sorry, all of this thing, where we can give them the solar, put it on there, but they won't actually own it. It's an actual lease. And whoever's doing the investing would then collect the 26% tax credit, the customer would get the rebate because they own the meter, right? So, but they do get to take advantage of a lower monthly electric bill. So that's a positive there, and it's called a power purchase agreement. So essentially what we're saying is that we'll give you the solar at no cost out of pocket, and you can, and we'll provide you electricity for less than what you're currently paying through the utility company. So,
Do y'all get any kind of discounts to existing Abernathy customers?
yeah, absolutely. That's a good question. Yeah, that's right, yeah, so we do, yeah, for sure, and so especially, one of the great things about that is that we're able to, sometimes, if it's a new project, or if it's been recently this year, we can take, your roof and probably get that rolled into the solar deal and help you get a 26% tax credit on the roof itself.
Also, I wanted to know how they hold up to hail.
That's a great question. Yeah, so it's proven against hail. They've got videos of 2-inch hail shooting it out of a gun at like 280 mile an hour, and doesn't affect it.
Wow.
So I think the warranty is even up to 4-inch hail on it. Yeah, it's 4-inch hail on solar panels. They've got videos of them driving trucks over and everything, so they're pretty indestructible.
I have a question on the financing piece, because we have deals that get steamrolled by solar loans all the time.
Sorry.
So somebody gets solar panels and they invest 40 grand and they get financing. Generally, those loans are filed as a second mortgage on the home. And a lot of times the homeowners don't realize that. And so what ends up happening is that the average loan lasts 6 to 7 years, which is probably why you're trying to show your payback in that time, is because odds are that's how long their mortgage is going to last. So then when they go to sell the property, what I find is the home actually becomes worth less. When an appraiser will appraise a property, they are looking to see if the home has electricity. They're not interested in the means in which that home's getting the electricity, so there's not much value added to the home in the eyes of the market. And it limits the buyer's pool, because there's still, like you said, a lot of folks out there that don't see value in solar. So when you're selling a home that has solar, there's less people that are going to be interested in buying the home. The potential buyers are smaller, potentially the value is less. And so what ends up happening is that loan, a lot of times now, isn't assumable to the new property owner.
Yeah.
And so it eats up all of the equity that they had, because they have to pay that loan off in order to sell their home. And so like what's coming down the pipe, like what solutions do you guys offer for those problems? Because like those are issues.
Yeah, it's an awesome question for sure. So I tell anybody, if you're not planning on staying in your house for at least another 5 years, it's probably not good for you. So if you're planning on selling, let's don't do it, first of all. And then yes, you're absolutely correct. It's not necessarily as another mortgage, but it is tied to the home, and it's a loan, that's associated with the house. So it does play a factor on it. What we've done is that we've partnered with Bright Oak, which is a division of Oak Star, and that is transferable to the next homeowner. So hopefully, if we've given them a good deal for solar that makes sense, where they're actually paying less for electricity there, then it would add value to the home, and they can assume that note. Also, the warranty for the solar is transferable to the new homeowners. So those are the steps we've taken, because it is. Yeah, I'm with you. Hopefully that answers your question.
Any other questions? All right.
What is your customer acquisition model right now? Are you just trying to leverage off of current Abernathy clients, or are you guys starting some direct-to-consumer marketing campaigns, or is it word of mouth, or what are you guys doing to try and grow this division?
Right now, just getting started, we have just been talking to our normal everyday Abernathy customers. We have a small campaign going. We're beginning to get larger on the, we just initiated a social media campaign. And then we'll also have another division that sells just solar only. So we're moving into that direction there. A lot of what we've had to do is just get processes in place, protocols, and project management to make sure that what we're doing right now, that we're really good at, and then we plan to replicate that in just a solar-only model too. So as of right now, we're doing a great job in just talking to our people who have an immediate need. They want to talk to us about roofing, and at the same time, after we talk to them about the roofing, met that need first, then we'll talk to them and say, hey, have you ever thought about solar?
So, I talked to JD yesterday, and I was just asking, because I looked up on your website, but I guess that's a work in progress, but you guys are working on building a solar side to your website with education and more
Yep.
information?
Yep, it's all in the, it's happening right now.
Uh-huh.
Everything is, we're running about as hard as fast as we can go right now. So,
Okay, awesome.
So I'll touch on this. Abernathy is a client of Athena. And so to answer your question, Skylar, yeah, we are doing some, it's a sales funnel approach of education. So their current clients, people who are interested in solar roofing, they will be fed those educational ads to educate. And then again, we'll go back into conversion ads, hopefully long term. So a lot of that is getting footage, drone footage, other things that were in the works, but yes, yeah.
okay. Thank you. Yep.
So just an idea you may consider on the marketing front. In my industry, I'm a mortgage lender, and I know in real estate, realtors as well, we're generally not fans of solar from our side, because like I said, they steamroll deals all the time because there's not enough equity in the home to pay the loan off.
Yeah.
The lender doesn't like the new buyer. They won't let the buyer assume the loan. Now this loan is out there.
Yeah.
All of a sudden we don't have enough equity. The whole deal gets derailed. It's
Yeah.
a big mess. So if you guys have an opportunity with Oakstar for a solution there, running some campaigns directly targeted to people like me and local realtors and educating us of that would be really valuable, because if there is somebody in the industry that has found a solution to the financing problem, then instead of me encouraging my client to shy away from the house that has solar panels, there could be like, hey, this could work, but we need to make sure that it was financed this way. And if you guys offer a solution there, then I think you'd see some referrals come through the realtor and lender channels, because it's a huge problem. There's a lot of companies out there that have no idea what they're doing on the finance side.
Yeah.
And if Oakstar's solution is an answer to that, then you should lean into that in your marketing. Just make sure and target it to the right people.
Yeah.
But that's a huge opportunity there.
Excellent. I really appreciate that. Thanks for the insight. That's perfect. And I'll tell you too, Abernathy, over our office here on Rangeline, John had built a whole training room that's basically dedicated to education and bringing other industries together. So I know we've had a lot of meetings with insurance agents and adjusters, and doing quite a lot, just on the insurance side of things, to bring the conflicts that we deal with on a daily basis together. And remarkably, after these meetings, they have been very, very productive. So I appreciate that. I'd like to get with you after the meeting, and so let's try to get something scheduled, get a meeting going and work out how we can do better.
I think those are great points. I think one thing to just mention, I know we're wrapping up, but glanced over this. I think most people didn't catch it, but there's an opportunity actually to get a larger tax credit if you do more work while you're doing solar. So for me, I saw an opportunity where I wouldn't have done solar except for I needed heat and air, or someone might need a roof, and then my heat and air actually becomes tax deduction at 26%. And so that sometimes the person's equity actually stays the same, but it's attributed as a cash asset basically, and how they use that cash, right? For some consumers, it totally makes sense. So I think you're spot on when saying some consumers, it just doesn't make sense because they don't have enough income to actually utilize the tax break, whereas some consumers could fully utilize the tax break in a year plus some, and it makes sense because they're moving cash around You know, it just makes more sense, I think.
If you don't have the tax liability, fortunately, that doesn't run out. You've got as long as you want to on however you pay taxes in to collect on the tax bill. So there's been a lot of misinformation out there that it was only 4 years or 5 years or whatever. We're in business, so depreciation is on a 5-year cap. But in solar, you can take a 100% deduction in the first year. But on the 26% federal tax credit, if it takes you 10 years to use that up, then you can still use it. So.
All right, well, thank you very much for sharing that. I appreciate it.